2021. This is 10 a.m. This meeting is taking place via the Teams protocol. Hopefully before long we might be able to change that, but at the moment we're still remote meetings. I'm going to go to the welcome and call, roll call, and then I'll just have a couple of things to say before we proceed. So welcome to our visitors this morning, Gareth Owen and Kelly Andrews. Welcome also our newest member of the Planning Committee, Councillor Rachel Taylor. Good welcome to you, Councillor. Hope you have a nice work relationship with us all. No, that's fine. Okay, so I'll go to item 1, the welcome and the roll call. So Tammy, will you please take the roll call?
Certainly, Chair. Good morning all. So I'll start with councillors. We have yourself, Councillor Suzanne Paddison, present as the Chair.
I am indeed. Thank you, Tammy.
Thank you. Vice Chair, Councillor Sean Percy.
Present.
Thank you. Councillors Rydian Mason. No. Okay. Councillor Scott Bamsey. Nope. Councillor Steve Hunt.
I'm here, Tammy.
Thank you. Councillor Arwyn Woolcock.
It's present, Chair.
Yeah. Councillor Suzanne Menkes.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Chris Williams.
Present, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Mark Prothero.
I'm present. Thanks, Tammy.
Thank you. Councillor Rachel Taylor.
Present, Tammy.
Thank you. We have 2 apologies, Chair, from Councillor Dennis Keogh and Councillor Ros Davis. I shall go on to others now. We have a local member present. 2 local members, Councillor Stephanie Lynch. Councillor Lynch.
Sorry, I wasn't sure whether I needed to say present.
Thank you. And Councillor Nigel Hunt. Okay, I've just had a chat message from Councillor Hunt that he is present. Councillor Hunt, if you could just confirm via verbal agreement that you're present, please. Councillor Nigel Hunt. No, all right. We'll pick up your technical difficulties after the meeting, Councillor Hunt. Planning officers, head of planning, Kerry Morris.
Yeah, present, Tammy.
Thank you. Matthew Fowrie.
Yeah, present.
Thank you. Russell Borthwick.
Yes, present. Hi.
Thank you. Do we have Environmental Health Officer Simon Evans?
No, not today.
No, thank you, Kerry. Okay, Highways Officers, Justin Griffiths.
Present, Tammy.
Thank you. And Delith Thomas today?
No.
Thank you, Justin. Legal Officer Rebecca McGregor.
Present. Good morning, all.
Morning. Myself, Tammy Davis, the Democratic Services Officer. We also have a registered speaker on application P2021/0406, which is 3 Fernfield, and that's Kelly Andrews.
Yep.
Present, thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Agent for the same application, Gareth Owen.
Present, thank you. Good morning, all.
That's great, thank you. I believe that's everybody accounted for. If I haven't called your name, could you speak now, please? No, there we are, Chair. The roll call is complete.
Thank you very much, Tammy. I would just like to point out that we will be operating this meeting under the Teams protocol, which has been previously circulated. If you wish to speak, please use your electronic hand or indicate in the chat function. Please turn telephones off to silent. If we do hear any background noise, we do understand that we are in people's homes, but try and keep the background noise to a minimum. I neglected to welcome the 2 local members, so I shall do so now. Councillor Stephanie Lynch and Councillor Nigel Hunt, thank you very much for attending. But before I go any further to declarations of interest, I must make an announcement that there has been a glitch in the protocol of informing Councillor Hunt of the results of the call-in panel. And as a result, Councillor Hunt has had what he deems to be insufficient time to prepare, and I agree with him. So I shall be putting a motion to committee asking for a proposer and seconder that we actually defer this item, because I do not feel it is fair to proceed with the local member not being informed as he should have been. This is a human error that's occurred. I know that it was a mad panic to get the reports ready before officer went on holiday, so I can understand that some sort of simple error has occurred. I have spoken with Councillor Hunt this morning and apologised for the error, and he's accepted my apology, and I have intimated that I would put it to the committee to defer. So this is my point at the moment. I would like to ask for somebody to put the motion that we defer this item because of the technical glitch. Can I have someone to propose?
For
Chair,
yeah.
Yeah, and sec. So I'll take Councillor Hunt and Councillor Percy as chair, as proposer and seconder. Are we all in agreement with that? If you could just either indicate if you're not in agreement, I think that would probably be best. Tammy, can you see anybody indicating?
No, Chair.
Okay, I have spoken with Craig on this, Beck, but you're happy with this?
I am. Just to clarify, this is in relation to the second item on the...
It is indeed, yes. I didn't point out the item. Thank you very much for that.
Yes,
So yeah, this is the second item, P 2021-0567, the Dalrymple Street item, which is now, which with the committee's assent, and I can see that they have, we are actually going to defer. So my apologies to Councillor Hunt once again, and we'll proceed to the only item left on our agenda, which is application P 2021-0406. 3 Fernfield, which is in your bundles at page 9 to 24. This is a recommendation to approve with the conditions. So, Mr. Morris, if you could take the committee through this report, please.
Yes, will do. Thank you, Chair. And
Sorry to interrupt, Chair and Kerry. I wonder if we could do declarations of interest in relation to this.
Oh, my apologies. It's been one of those mornings. I do sorry.
No
Declarations, yes, thank you. I do so glad you're there. So please, members, do you have any declarations of interest to declare? Please indicate by raising your electronic hand or in the chat function. Tammy?
Sorry, I was on mute. I see Councillor Suzanne Menkes, Chair.
Councillor Renkes?
Yes, Chair, just to say that I'm the local ward member.
That's okay.
That's the only interest.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you, Councillor Renkes. You are allowed that. So anything else other than that? No. If you could just take your hand down, that's fine. Thank you, Tammy, and thank you very much, Beck. Okay, so we will proceed, Kerry, with the item P 2021-0406. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, members. I'll just try and share my screen, so if you bear with me a moment, hopefully this will work.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. I think members have received the presentation, haven't they, Kerry?
I think we may have lost Kerry, Chair.
Oh, well, it's going to be one of those days, isn't it?
I believe that he
Do
may
see
have
if you can
done
get
it
him
by
back.
accident, and I will try and call him back now. He's probably panicking somewhere now.
Thank you.
That's okay.
Yeah, it's not a good start, is it? I clicked the wrong button, Chair. So
No
apologies on
problem.
that one.
It's one of those mornings, Kerry. Thank you.
It's-
So if
it's
you
certainly-
would now proceed, thank you.
It is, Chair. Okay, I'll try and, as I said, I'll try and share my screen a sec. I've now lost the presentation. Bear with me a sec.
But I was just pointing out that all members of the committee have received this presentation electronically anyway, so we have access to it, even if you cannot share your screen. But you can, lovely. Okay,
there it is. Yeah.
yep, excellent.
Okay, I'll also knock my camera off. So, okay. Apologies for delay.
No problem.
Chair and members, but okay. As I said, the application this report relates to is P 2021-0406, and it relates to the address 3 Fernfield, Baglan. The request from the local member, Councillor Renkes, requested the application to be called in for discussion at committee based on the fact that the proposal would result in a degree of overlooking. I'd also draw perhaps members' attention, Chair, to the amendment sheet that was circulated late yesterday, which provides from the applicant some additional sections and a street scene elevation, which I'll perhaps refer to in a little bit more detail as I go through the presentation.
Yeah, certainly.
But in terms of the site and context, the application site itself comprises an existing detached bungalow known as Bayview, and the site itself measures approximately 0.39 hectares. The site itself is steeply sloping from west up to the east, with associated retaining works to the adjacent highway to the western and eastern sides, and this curves around the site in a hairpin bend and is single track in width. The site is bounded by the highway to the north, east and west, and this dwelling to the south, and there is also a dwelling below the site, number 26 Pentoyne Bagden Road, on the western side. So that gives a different perspective on, as I say, this is the application site that we're talking about this morning. In terms of the description of the development itself, the application seeks to significantly remodel the existing property and proposes an increase in ridge height of the existing bungalow to provide accommodation within the roof space, a 2-storey rear extension, plus attached garage and side elevation with roof terrace above, with associated retaining works to the front and rear properties. So that is currently the existing rear and left and right elevations of the property. And that's the existing ground floor plan as it currently stands. So in terms of what is proposed, as I said, there's a roof extension proposed which seeks to raise the ridge height by approximately 2.39 metres. The overall width of the property itself will be increased from approximately 20.1 metres to 22.8 metres, with an attached garage proposed to the northern side of the house with a roof terrace. And this addition will measure 6.6 metres in length by 5.7 metres wide and will reach a height of approximately 2.8 metres. So again, that's the proposed front and rear, left and right elevations of the application. There are additional windows proposed to all elevations, including the roof lights. The rear extension itself will measure a total width of 16.75 metres and have a depth of 2.42 metres, which will reach a height of 6.8 metres with 2 rear gable features. In terms of the finish of the property, the whole dwelling is proposed to be rendered with a cream white textured render with grey render for the garage plus grey windows and doors. A cedar cladding feature is also proposed to the front elevation. There are a number of retaining walls also, Chair, in terms of a number of replacement walls, including access steps, and they're proposed to the front boundary along the highway and to the rear dwelling to hold up the highway behind. and these various retaining walls range in height from 1 metre up to approximately 3.8 metres. That's and I'll perhaps come on as well to the amendments, but that's what we're discussing this morning, Chair, in terms of the proposal. In terms of negotiations, officers have negotiated with the agent representing the applicant, and amended plans were requested in terms of the front retaining works and landscaping and the stepped access to the front door. In terms of consultations, there's been no objections raised from rights of way officers or builder control, and there've been no objections subject to appropriate conditions from the head of engineering and transport, highways and contaminated land. In terms of representations received, neighbouring properties were consulted on the 16th of April and 30th of June respectively, with site notices displayed on those same dates. We've received a total of 5 representations received, with nature of concerns being raised, including overlooking and overbearing to neighbouring properties, highway and pedestrian safety due to narrow width and alignment of the road and potential blocking of access, potential damage from HGVs, overdevelopment of the site and visual amenity in terms of the design. As always, Chair, the report references the important and contextual sort of matters to take into account in terms of the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act, National Planning Policy in the form of Planning Policy Wales and Future Wales, which is the new National Development Plan, and obviously all relevant LDP policies and SPG. But in terms of members' consideration this morning, the main issues to consider in respect of this particular application is the principle of development, together with the impact on the visual amenity of the area, the amenities of neighbouring residents, and highway safety. So I'll take each of those briefly in concern, in turn, Chair. In terms of principle of development, the site is located within settlement limits defined by LDP policy SC1. So in that sense, the principle of development at this location is therefore generally acceptable, provided, of course, that there are no overriding highway amenity or environmental objections. In terms of visual amenity, the proposal itself would certainly alter the appearance of the existing dwelling from a bungalow to a 2-storey property. The extended dwelling would again certainly have a greater physical presence in the area than the current bungalow, because of obviously its increase in width and indeed height. Although the existence of the 3 gable features would be lost, the proposal is going to retain 2 gable features to the front, and the overall sort of remodeled dwelling would have a modern, attractive appearance. The large attached garage and amenity area above is also considered to be in keeping with the overall style of the dwelling as altered. And overall, Chair, it is not considered that the dwelling would appear out of accord with the general character of the area, which includes a number of 2-storey dwellings in the location. In terms of the retaining works, particularly to the front boundary, whilst these would provide a so-called harder feature within the street scene, the design has been amended as discussed through negotiations to reduce that physical impact, whilst sort of planting on top would also assist in sort of providing a softer edge to the street, as well as providing additional screening. So in terms of providing subject conditions in terms of the construction of the development, it's considered that the overall proposal would not have a detrimental impact upon the character and appearance of the surrounding area and street scene. Moving on then to the impact on residential amenity. There is obviously an issue being raised of potential overlooking, as the proposal would certainly increase the height and width of the dwelling, with a number of new windows proposed, as well as the proposed roof terrace, all of which has the potential to increase the impact on nearby properties. In terms of its position, the dwelling relative to its surroundings, the only windows and areas which have the potential to create overlooking face the southern and western boundaries. Now, in terms of the southern elevation, the windows serving the gym on the ground floor and bedroom at the first floor, as these are sort of secondary sort of windows and doors, they can be conditioned, Chair, to be fitted with obscure glazing to prevent any unacceptable overlooking issues. Moving to the western elevation, which is facing number 26, there are 3 existing windows to the side elevation of number 26 facing the road, 2 of which are obscurely glazed and 1 clearly glazed. Number 26 is located in terms of the lie of the land at a much lower level of the road, and that's sort of illustrated in terms of the cross section that's provided as part of the presentation. And albeit the primary views from the application site would predominantly extend over the ridge height of the property below. If I could perhaps turn members' attention to the amendment sheet that came round late yesterday. Okay. There have been some further amendments proposed by the applicant. If I take so that was the original scheme. So the main changes have related to this area of the proposal. And in terms of the master bedroom glazing, which is this glazing here, this is the revised scheme. So what's been proposed is that the applicant has lifted the glazing sill height to 1.6 metres above the first floor finished level, so thereby sort of preventing overlooking into the garden sort of amenity area below. In addition, the proposed sort of 2 portrait windows at either side, these will be fixed, which means sort of non-opening, and will have obscure glass as well. Some sort of feature timber and fin cladding is also proposed within the space in between to replace where the original glazing was planned. Also, this window here, which is the bedroom window for bedroom number 2, the applicant has also proposed amending this so that there is obscure glazing in the lower pane in the vertical eaves window section, again preventing that overlooking element. The roof light section of the eaves window will remain clear glass, Chair. Now, as I say, in addition to these sort of additional sort of cross sections have also been provided by the applicant to provide sort of, or to illustrate, then if you like, the fact that there will not be any unacceptable overlooking from the property. This top section is taken from the roof terrace. So that essentially shows a line of sight across the highway and into the garden area of number 26 below. The second is from the master bedroom, and you can see this area here, given that the glazing has been, or the sill height has been increased, that then obviously prevents any overlooking from that perspective. And this third cross section provides sort of an understanding from the proposed landing area. And as I said, if I, in terms of those 3 cross sections, what that demonstrates again then is that ultimately there is no unacceptable overlooking as a consequence, and particularly in respect of the amended scheme that's been put forward. So overall, Chair, that the dwelling as proposed would not consider to create an unacceptable overbearing or overshadowing issue to such a degree that would warrant refusal of the application. As I said, especially given the existing relationship between the 2 properties in terms of differences of levels and what has been outlined.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on then to parking. That's also to show members what is existing within property number 26 with the fencing to the boundary. Okay, moving on then to parking and access requirements and the impact on highway safety. The proposal will retain or provide and retain 3 parking spaces on the driveway area and garage. So as such, the scheme would not be considered to be provided a sort of unacceptable issue in terms of parking provision. There is also potential to impact on the highway during construction works, particularly when considering what is required in terms of the front retaining walls. Construction impacts are sort of temporary in nature, however, and not a reason to object to development, albeit it is accepted that such impacts do need to be controlled. So in this regard, highway section has assessed the proposal, and whilst offering no objection to the development, they have suggested conditions are required in terms of the submission of a detailed construction method statement, which would include emergency vehicle access and retaining wall methodology, as well as providing detailed structural calculations. So providing, Chair, that these are imposed, it's therefore considered that the proposal would not have a detrimental impact in terms of highway and pedestrian safety. Briefly then, Chair, moving on to, apologies, Chair, that these couple of images just show the extent of the highway.
Yeah, they're just additional photographs.
Yeah. Okay. And in terms of, perhaps finally, in terms of the contaminated land, the site has been identified as having potential contaminated land. However, contaminated land officers offer no objection to the proposal, subject to standard conditions that are attached to numerous permissions. There were one or two other matters raised in terms of the representations received, Chair, that have not necessarily been addressed in detail in the report. The two, one being the potential damage from HGVs, and that would not necessarily be a planning issue. That would be a civil matter, but nevertheless, such issues will be captured as part of the construction method statement. And there is also a reference to potential overdevelopment of the site, but there are approximately 0.37 hectares of land garden area remaining following completion of the proposal, Chair, and as such, it is not considered to be overdevelopment. In conclusion, then, Chair, as I said, it's considered that the proposed development would not have any detrimental impact upon residential amenity or upon the character and appearance of the surrounding area, and ultimately would not have an adverse impact upon highway and pedestrian safety. And subject to the conditions as mentioned, Chair, the recommendation for Planning Committee this morning is to approve.
Thank you very much, Mr. Morris, for taking the committee through those issues. Before I open up to debate, we do have speakers, as was mentioned before. Kelly Andrews and Gareth Owen. I'm going to take Kelly first. She was, I believe, the first one to ask to have speaking powers. Kelly, you will have 5 minutes. Tammy Davis will have a clock running, and she will just intimate to you when you've come to the last minute, just in case there's something very vital that you have to get in your 5 minutes and you haven't already mentioned it. So in your own time, when you're ready, Kelly, Tammy will start the clock when you start speaking.
Thank you,
Kelly Andrews, please.
Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Kelly Andrews. I'm the owner of 26 Pentwyn Baglan Road. I'd like to note that we were only made aware of the third set of amendments last night after allowing Gareth Owens, the architect for the Hibbards, to take measurements in our garden last Friday. However, the changes have not gone far enough to recognise the loss of privacy caused by overlooking and overbearing of the new development. With the impact of the visual amenity, as noted in the plans, the bungalow will now have a greater physical presence in the area, doubling its existing height and mass, which in 2003 was already subject to planning, which created a 50% increase to the original bungalow. Number 3 was hardly noticeable on the visual impact and will now stand out across the mountainside. It will be seen from a greater distance and will be out of character. For the impact of the residential amenity, the new amendments have wrongly located our garden amenity level, as demonstrated by the section 9. As being below the parked area, this is not the case. The main amenity level is 2 foot above that shown by the amendments. Therefore, while sat in the garden of 26, the roof terrace will continue to overlook and cause loss of privacy. The roof terrace will sit upon the line of our fence line and allow clear overlooking and overbearing into our property. The new drawings have not considered this. Even with changes to the master bedroom, the development continues to cause an impact upon the existing garden area and results of loss of privacy. The separation distance between the roof terrace and our garden amenity, we believe, is less than 10 metres. With regards to the windows, the applicants acknowledge that the development will increase the overlook into our bedroom, which was previously obscured by thick hedging of 3 Fernfield at the first level. Our fencing does not cover the bedroom window as stated, and the second level of the new development would still overlook. A minimal distance of 21 metres shall be retained between directly overlooking habitable rooms windows on which the new extension and those in existing property. It should also be noted by the panel that an earlier planning application in 2005 of a new build at 10 Fernfield was refused by planning by the council, and an appeal to the Welsh Assembly Inspector was also refused planning, the main objection being the effect of the proposal of the character and the appearance of the area, stating policies aimed at protecting the character and the appearance of the countryside. Penny Davis, the inspector, then stated that she found that there was no that it would not override the visual harm, and it would consider the compelling reason to dismiss the appeal. We therefore maintain that the proposal does not satisfy policy BE1 and TR2 of the local development plan, nor the SPG Design Householders Guide. Now that COVID restrictions have been lifted, we would ask that a site visit is carried out to fully appreciate the complexities of the proposals and the effects this will have on our residential amenity before a decision is made. We also note with concern that several of the pre-commencement conditions cannot be met. There is no parking around the property or on Pentwyn Baglan Road, as there are several yellow lines. There is no safe space for loading or unloading plant materials around the local area or near to the properties. The development will not be able to retain vehicle access, including emergency vehicles and council vehicles, to service the Fernfield during the construction. This is in the interest of the highway and pedestrian safety and the environment and the amenity of residents, and to ensure accordance with policies BE1 and TR2 of the adopted Neath Talbot local development plan. We have many concerns regarding the retaining walls, and the concerns that access to the lane will be extremely limited and not suitable for plant and large vehicles. But unfortunately, in 5 minutes, we do not have enough time to discuss these today. The retaining wall issue is not just the front, but also the back of the property of 3 Fernfield. And we believe this will take considerable work and cause considerable distraction for everybody living in the area. Thank you for listening.
Oh, thank you very much, Kelly. You've put your points very succinctly for us this morning. Thank you. So I'm going to go back to Mr. Morris with a few of the issues you have raised, and then I'll come on to the other speaker again. So if we can just deal with wrongly marked garden area, Mr. Morris.
So which wrongly marked gardener did you say?
Yeah, Miss Andrews mentioned a wrongly marked garden area. It's not correct, she says. Kelly, would you like to just not Mason Beach, but just clarify what you meant by that?
Section has been looked at for the plans in section 9. Looks like they've referred to when Mr. Owens came to the garden to measure up. He looked at the point forward in front of the car park space, which is where we have a children's pool. The area is actually looking at Fernfield to the right. That's where we sit. That is our main area. That's not shown. It's actually 2 foot above the pool area.
I just wanted a brief clarification because we are limited on how long people can speak for. So do you get the gist of what Miss Andrews is saying there, Kerry?
Yes, I mean it seemed to be suggesting, Chair, that in terms of the additional cross sections that have been provided by the applicant, that the measurements are perhaps incorrect, and I can see Mr. Owen has his hand up, so I don't know whether he perhaps wants to clarify.
No, we'll come to Mr. Owen after he's spoken, if I may.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So,
but the application didn't include those drawings, did it? We can.
Well, the application that's been considered this morning includes the amendments that have been discussed this morning. So effectively, Chair, we are now including those these new cross sections and measurements as part of. As part of the application, and the amendment sheet, Chair, includes the additional in terms of the list of approved plans at the back, so they've been added to the application list.
The 21 metres, Miss Andrews mentioned 21 metres.
In relation to what aspect, Chair?
Kelly?
Sorry, Chair, I need to go back on my document now. I wasn't prepared for questions, Chair. Sorry.
No, I wasn't. No, I just thought that you mentioned 21 metres, and I just thought
it's in regards to the a minimum distance of 21 metres shall be retained between directly overlooking habitable room windows on that of which the extension and nose in the existing property. I believe that is in one of the SPG documents for design.
Thanks for that. That's what it's referring to, Mr. Morris.
I mean, it may be, Chair. I know that the case officer, Matthew Fury, is on the call
right
this morning.
Would it be best to go to Mr. Fury?
I suspect Mr. Fury would probably be best to answer this particular
That's fine.
question.
Okay, I want to get the best officer. Mr. Fury?
Hello.
Hello there. I hope you heard the questions raised by Ms. Andrews. Have you anything to add to the committee?
I'm a bit confused here, if I'm honest. I think Russell is the case officer for the...
Oh, Russell is. Russell is raising his hand. You're quite correct. Russell Borthwick, I do apologise.
Yes, I mean, it's all been considered in the report, including the change in levels. So the 21 metres is guidance in the SPG, and obviously we have to take into account other factors, including the change in levels, boundary treatments, etc., etc.
Okay.
So it's all been considered in the report.
That's fine. And do you have anything further to add to the committee in regards to what Kelly has said in her statement to the committee this morning?
Well, I'd also say that obviously the assessment was done on the information as originally submitted, not necessarily with the additional sections. They were for additional clarification purposes more than
just
anything, rather than the basis of our assessment. The assessment's been made, you know, based on what we've undertaken on site, the submitted plans and the photos and everything that's come in from the objection letters, etc.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, well, I dare say that there will be more questions from committee, but I just wanted to raise those things as Miss Andrews raised them in her statement. So I'll go on to our second speaker this morning now, Gareth Owen, who's the agent for Mr. Hibbard on this application. Mr. Owen, welcome to you as well. You again will have 5 minutes and Miss Davis will tell you when you've had 4 minutes, just for the same reason, just to make sure you add everything into your 5 minutes. So when you are ready, Tammy will start the clock for you. Mr. Owen, please.
Okay, thank you. Good morning all, and thanks for the opportunity to speak. Just taking into consideration what has been discussed and the objections to the application. Obviously, when we first put the application in, we went through the pre-application protocol, which I don't think has been mentioned, which obviously gave us the opportunity through the pre-app process to discuss our proposals with the planning officers to ensure that we weren't going to put anything forward that would be deemed to be not compliant with planning policies and ensure that our designs have the least possible impact on any visual amenity and local neighbouring properties. So we went through the pre-app process. The concerns raised in the pre-app were mainly raised around the ridge levels originally proposed. We originally proposed a full 2-storey dwelling. That was then reduced in agreement with the planning officers to create an additional 1/2 storey. So the first floor is in the roof space of the proposed dwelling, which significantly reduces the ridge heights, which is now in accordance with our application. So moving on to the concerns raised with overlooking, I think the additional sections, just moving on and in response to Kelly on section 9, the dimensions are correct. The roof terrace is actually located opposite the parking port on the road going up Fernfield, and is not directly opposite the higher part of your garden that you refer to. I think you'll see that in section 10. So in section 10 through the master bedroom, which sits opposite your raised garden area. We did look at that on Friday, understand the concerns, and we've made suitable amendments by raising that glazing to 1.6 metres above finished floor, which completely prevents any overlooking and privacy issues into your garden. Similarly, there were concerns raised with the landing and the stairwell atrium and the glazing on that side of the building. It's an atrium landing, so the landing is actually set back within the property, so nobody can stand directly in front of that glazing and look down into 26 Penrhyn Baglan, into their garden space, and similarly into the windows on their rear elevation. That is demonstrated in section 11, which were issued over the weekend. So I take into account the method statement and the comments there. It's obviously down to ourselves to meet those conditions. I don't think the application should be refused based on somebody's opinion that a method statement cannot be produced. You'll be amazed what can be achieved in the construction industry these days with different and modern working methods. So I don't think that is relevant in refusing the application on somebody's opinion that the method statement could never be put together successfully or completed safely without interrupting traffic on the highways in that area. The conditions are there for that very reason, to ensure that we do put something together. They will go to the council and get approved or rejected, and obviously until we can satisfy those conditions, we cannot carry out the development. So I don't think that is a material issue on this application. Just looking at my notes, there was a comment from Kelly that we've doubled the height and the mass of the dwelling. That is incorrect. We've not doubled the height of the dwelling or the mass of the dwelling, as reported in the planning report. There isn't deemed to be any over.
1 minute remaining.
There is sufficient amenity space around the proposals. We don't believe that our proposals will impact detrimentally on the street scene, and certainly not on privacy of any neighbouring properties, which is being raised as the issue.
Thank you. You still have a few seconds. Are you finished, Mr. Owen?
The only other thing to mention really is obviously we've included some additional obscure glazing upon the review that we carried out on Friday, which again prevents any overlooking issues into that property.
Well, thank you as well very, very much for addressing committee. Obviously, there are different opinions with our speakers today, and that's what the committee are here to decide with the paper. So it's not, I must say, it isn't on somebody's opinion. The committee will make their deliberations based on officers' advice and the reports given, and maybe answers to any of their questions which they may have later. So I'll come now to Councillor Renkis. Welcome, Councillor Renkis. You are the local member for the ward in which this site happens. You were the one that called it to committee. So I do not time local members, so you don't have 5 minutes, but let's not have a drama. Councillor Renkis, thank you.
Thank you, committee, for allowing me to speak to you this morning. I don't think I will take much more than 5 minutes.
No, that's fine.
Just as a bit of background, Fernfield in Baglan is, I think, probably about 160 years old. It's just got a single lane track, and it's kind of the gateway to the mountain which forms the backdrop to Fernfield. It has a peculiarly rural nature, actually, and I would actually say it's probably a unique sort of part of Baglan. There is no other road like Fernfield in Baglan. I would actually like to request a site visit for the committee, because I think it would be really helpful. Although you wouldn't be able to see what the new building would be like or anything like that, I think it would just give you an opportunity to see the peculiar location and the sort of like the rural feel of that location. I think it would also give you the opportunity to have a feel for the location of 26 and the location of the garden of number 26. Kelly Andrews mentioned that there had been an application in 2007 for a number 10 Fernfield, and that was refused. And I appreciate it was before the 2017 local development plan, but the reason it was refused was because it would have given substantial intrusion of urban form into the rural character of the locality, and that I would like to request a site visit so that you would be able to get a feel for the location.
Okay, and are you finished as well?
No, I've got more. Do you want me to just carry
Okay,
on?
I will deal with the request for the site visit. I would just like to hear the rest of your representation, and then I will deal with the site visit request, okay?
Yeah, okay, thank you. I feel that the proposal of the new dwelling would actually be out of character for the locality. It would stand out, you know, within Fernfield. So I'm just looking at my notes. I'm looking down. I apologise because I'm looking at my notes.
No problem, Councillor.
And although I obviously acknowledge the amendments that were put forward last night, and I acknowledge that does reduce some of the considerations of overlooking. I do not think that they have completely alleviated. Oh God. Sorry, I lost.
No worries. Listen, we're living in an age where we get cut off at the moment's notice. We understand. Okay.
Dodgy Wi-Fi. I don't think it's completely alleviated the overlooking issues that have been raised by Ms Andrews and also myself. I think particularly the roof garden continues to cause concern, and I think even the cross sections that were put into the amendment to show that there would not be any overlooking. I think that's a little bit disingenuous because it depends where you stand on that roof garden and you know, which way you're turning, etc. So I think that for me is still you know, a considerable concern. It says in the household planning guidance that if there is an increase in the eaves and the ridge height, that where properties would be out of character and scale within the area, they are unlikely to be acceptable. And I believe that this new dwelling would be out of character and out of scale for this locality. I appreciate that this is not necessarily a planning issue, but the actual construction does cause concern. The single track lane is used quite often by pedestrians because it's a gateway to the mountain behind. And you know, doing that construction would mean that that would be very difficult for pedestrians to then also use that lane, never mind any kind of emergency vehicles, etc. And although it's transient, I think it would cause considerable disruption for the residents, you know, of Fernfield.
Okay.
And just finally, I wanted to say that the increase in height of the new dwelling in some ways exacerbates the overlooking. Obviously, Miss Andrews has erected a fence. At the moment, she has a fence there to alleviate some overlooking, and that's at the original height of the building. So any sort of additional height to the building will